Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Little Rock, where love is our teaching and service is our prayer. I'm Cass Rifkin. I help to organize the volunteers for the VAN, which is an outreach program for people that are shelterless. If you'd like to volunteer, I'd love to talk to you. I now invite Laura Luce to come forward to light the chalice and lead us in our affirmation of covenant, which is printed in your order of service.
I light this chalice with these words. Open our eyes to what is beautiful. Open our minds to what is true. Open our hearts to love one another. Please join me in the affirmation of covenant that is printed in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
Trying to understand, struggling, making mistakes, paying attention, asking questions, listening, learning to love our neighbors, learning to love ourselves. The vision of beloved community is not serene. It is full of tension. Edward Hicks captured this truth in his famous paintings of the Peaceable Kingdom. He painted 62 of these, starting around 1820. One example is on the cover of your order of service. This one includes, in the background, English colonists presenting gifts to a delegation of indigenous Americans. And we know how that turned out. Hicks lived his whole life in small towns around Philadelphia. He died in 1849. The last 30 or so years of his life, during which he painted all 62 of his Peaceable Kingdom paintings, was a time of increasing political conflict and division. By trade, he was a decorative painter. He learned his craft in a carriage maker's shop, and later went into business for himself, painting ornament on household items. If you had an old chair or something that was looking the worse for wear, you might take it to Hicks to have him give it a fresh look. Paintings like this one were not merchandise he sold. They were gifts he gave to friends. The Peaceable Kingdom theme was important to him. He was a Quaker, recorded by his congregation as a preacher in 1812 at the age of 32. In that capacity and in those times, he reflected a lot on the complexity of peace. The inspiration for the images in the foreground of that example you have is content that common to all 62 of his paintings. The inspiration for it was Isaiah chapter 11, verses 1 through 9. Let me take a moment to remind you of that passage. It goes, "A shoot shall come out from the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of its roots." Just to orient you, Jesse was King David's father, a shepherd. David's united kingdom of Israel and Judah was a short-lived but long-remembered and much mythologized era Isaiah's prophecy here is about realizing the dream of peace that David's united kingdom had come to symbolize. This first line of the passage, marked off in Protestant Bibles with the title, The Peaceful Kingdom, comes in the middle of a poem. In the Hebrew Scriptures, prophecies are often rendered as poems. And the first half of the poem describes how God will chase the Assyrians out of Israel. This first line is part of a transition from that to an image of the ideal peace that will follow the Assyrians' departure. The transition describes how, after the Assyrians depart, shaking their fists at Jerusalem as they go, God will lop off the boughs with terrifying power, says the text. The tallest trees will be cut down, and the lofty will be brought low. This suggests perhaps a mopping up of local elites of collaborators. Local leadership in service of the people here needs to be rebuilt. So from that deeply rooted ideal, symbolized by the old United Kingdom, out of that stump will grow a branch, a new, longed-for leadership. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, such a leader. The spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and reverence for the Lord. His delight shall be in reverence for the Lord. And now Isaiah describes what that looks like, this reverence for the Lord. He shall not judge by what his eyes see or decide by what his ears hear, but with righteousness he shall judge for the poor and decide with equity for the oppressed of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the belt around his loins. That is, he will not choose violence, but law. Not oppression, but dialogue and compromise. The breath of his lips cannot literally kill the wicked, but it can coax them out of their wickedness. Isaiah continues, and here's the picture. The wolf shall live with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion will feed together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze. Their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play over the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put its hand on the adder's den. All God's children got a place in the choir. And that scene involves more than 3 impossible things before breakfast. We can expect the wolf and the lion and the leopard and the bear to lapse from their vegetarianism, at least from time to time. And then comes the finale. They will not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, that is Jerusalem, the capital city. For the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord as waters cover the sea. So that is a biblical dream of peace, with plenty of poetic acknowledgement that it's not going to be easy. Hicks read this passage through the lens of the Quaker doctrine of the inner light, drawn from the Greek scriptures, Colossians 1:27, where it says, God has now revealed to his saints this mystery, which is Christ in you. That is, complementing external law is an inner light. Christ, that is the fulfillment of the law, in you as the process of spiritual growth. Which does not mean simply that you internalize the law, but that you also have your own insights from your experience, and that collectively we all contribute to an evolution of the law and a deeper understanding of what it needs to be. And what Hicks noticed in his preaching ministry, no doubt, was how contentious, divided, and even violent collective life stressed and dimmed the inner light of individual spiritual growth and stalled the development of deeper collective understanding. If he were alive today, he'd see a lot of evidence for this on social media. I'm speaking at length about peace and its complexity because it is the foundation upon which we build belonging. Conflict, contention, and division make us question whether we or they belong. This elusive, peaceable kingdom is an instructive image, if you think about it seriously, of what it takes to build belonging. Belonging is at the heart of the greatest hope and promise of our faith tradition. I have never forgotten the words of someone I'm sure none of you has ever heard of, Mary Jane Walkinger, who's speaking of our faith during, of all things, a congregational meeting. How Unitarian can you get? Said, never in the history of the world has there been a religion that believed that people with very different beliefs could worship together. Our tradition of adopting no creed, of cherishing our diversity and our doubts as a resource for spiritual growth, is a way to embrace the complexity of peace. And here in our churches, it is how we belong. University of Houston professor and author Brené Brown wrote that the true belonging is the spiritual practice of believing in and belonging to yourself so deeply that you can share your most authentic self with the world and find sacredness in both being part of something and standing alone in the wilderness. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are, she said. It requires you to be who you are. And that's true, provided we manage to put love at the center and be together in ways that simulate that complex, impossible thing, the peaceable kingdom. And that we affirm and live out as best we can the ideal that everyone belongs. And sometimes that's a challenge. But we do it pretty well here in our church community because that's our tradition and our experience, our law and our inner light. The late theologian and justice activist, the Reverend Dr. Barbara Holmes, wrote that collective suffering cannot be absorbed by individuals. Individuals cannot respond. You must do it as a community for safety, for comfort, and for survival. So may our presence with our neighbors offer images and experiences of hope in these troubled times, and may we continue to show up together for justice and for peace. So may it be. Amen.
I invite Laura back up to extinguish our chalice. Please join in saying our closing words, which you'll find printed in our order of service. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings.
And may we keep love at the center and pass on the light.